Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Tonight's webinar, hopefully you guys can all see my screen here, is GotSoccer for advanced registrars. And we're going to be touching a little bit more on the new platform that we had talked about last time as well. Just want to remind everybody before we get started, as with all of these, the session is currently being recorded. It will be posted on YouTube probably tomorrow morning. And we're going to try to make this as interactive as we can. In the beginning, if you have questions as we're going throughout, feel free to type them in the chat mode, and I will serve them up to GotSoccer. And then at the last section, we've got some time for Q&A, where I will open your microphones if you raise your hand, and you can verbally ask questions if it's not necessarily on the track of what we're talking about at the time. As I mentioned, GotSoccer for Advanced Registrars is tonight. Quick little introduction here. I'm sure you guys have heard me throughout many of these. Joel Dragan, I'm the Executive Director for FYSA. Very pleased to be joined by Alice Smith, our Registrar, board member for FYSA, and fellow GotSoccer expert as well. We also have Scott Sobel from GotSoccer. So thank you both for being on this webinar tonight. I will do very little talking beyond the next couple of slides. And again, a big special thank you to GotSoccer as a whole for lending us some knowledge with Scott tonight. Really quickly, like I said, we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. I've got one slide about our partnership with GotSoccer that you guys have probably heard and seen before. We'll jump right into the demo, and as I mentioned at the end, I will open it up to Q&A for those who raise their hand. As I mentioned in some previous ones, GotSoccer and FYSA have a long-term partnership since 2009 and 2010. We signed a new 5-year partnership last year in 2019, so we are coming up on the 2nd year of that partnership. It's obviously the recommended club registration platform. FYSA requires that all FYSA members get their pass cards and rosters out of GotSoccer, and that they report all their registrations to FYSA via GotSoccer. So the policies and procedures that we've put into place will enable you to do it. However, there is a registration component in GotSoccer that clubs can opt in or out of using that really just makes your life a whole lot easier. Club registration, GotSoccer calls it, or their extended clients that allows your registrants, the players, to online register via GotSoccer, and then everything flows up from there, from the parent to you at the club to us at the state. It's pretty well streamlined. And you can see here, FYSA in our contract has negotiated some good rates for you guys, as well as free scheduling tools for the league members. These fees right here are not automatic. These are paid directly to GotSoccer if you opt into that extended platform registration program that GotSoccer offers. Credit card rates, as we found out last time, could potentially be lower. They're based on the volume that you guys process. So player management and of course the coach integration is something that we've worked long and hard about with the coaches. It's a one-stop shop for them in their coach account to do the background checks, the CDC training, as well as the safe sport. So no one wants to hear these boring details, so I am going to kick it over to Scott, allow him to share his screen if we can coordinate that, and let him take it from there. Scott, let me see. I am making you the presenter.
Perfect. You guys able to see my screen here?
Sure am. And I will just reaffirm to everybody, please, if you have questions as we go throughout, type them into the chat box. And if you'd like to save them for the end, feel free to raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
All right, thanks, Joel. Appreciate everyone for joining this evening's meeting. Before I dive into the new system, per Alice's request, the one thing that I wanted to go over in our old platform is the guest player forms. It sounds like guest player forms are moving completely online, so they must be filled out within your GotSoccer organization account. So to quickly go over this, if I go under my blue club tab at the top of the screen here, and I click on State Forms, you will see each of the state forms listed and available. When I click on that guest player form, I'm able to go through and fill this out. As I fill out all of the information, one of the drop downs on here will be current players club. You do need to get approval from the club that the player is coming from through this form. Once you fill out this form, not only within your club account, if I go back under my club tab, will it show under forms and requests, it will then be on both clubs to go in and approve this document. So I can click on my form, I can go ahead and click approve, and once I approve on my side, then it will be on the club that the player is coming from, which you can see at the bottom of the form, to go in and approve as well before you can add that guest player to your roster for events. So just wanted to make sure we quickly go through this. As many of you are very familiar with this club tab, you'll go to the club tab, state forms to access those forms, and then just under that club tab dashboard, you will see the forms and requests on the right-hand side of the screen where you can approve and check the status of other documents that need to be approved as well. So now that we got to touch on that very quickly, I now want to dive into the system. It sounds like my colleague William Cameron walked you guys through a little bit of it, kind of scraped the surface a few days ago. I want to go a little bit more in depth when it comes to program registrations, general club management, that process.
Scott, I apologize about interrupting here, but we've already got two quick questions on the chat about that process before you go to the new one.
Sure, fire away.
Actually, this one actually says for Alice, but I wanted to address it while we're on the topic. When using the guest player form, we noticed FYSA never approves their part. Is that acceptable if both clubs approve it?
Yes, that's true. Both clubs approve it, it's good.
Okay. And then what do you bring to the tournament? I printed a PDF of the, do I print a PDF of the approved form? That's from Cheryl.
Correct. That is correct. You print the approved one, and that's what goes to the tournament.
Great. Sorry, Scott. I just wanted to make sure we didn't get too far ahead there.
No, not a problem, Joel. Appreciate it. So as I was saying, want to go a little bit more in depth. Program registrations, general club management, doing some team building. I want to go through a lot of the improvements many of you have asked for over the years. I want to go into communications a little bit, and then I just want to get you ready to see how we've changed the process of submitting your data to the state and getting your player passes and official rosters. In my personal opinion, the Registrar tab has been a few extra clicks from what I think many of you would like to do to get your information submitted. We've really streamlined a lot of that in this new system, not only to help our state partner and FYSA make sure that they're on top of this stuff and it's very easy to manage, but to make all of you as clubs, your lives a lot easier. You know, I always say, and many of you that I've worked with one-on-one in the past have probably heard me say this, the entire point of an online software is to make your lives easier. So if the system's not going to make your life easier as an admin, a lot of times it's not worth using. With this new platform, I think we're bringing a lot more to the table from our old system. Many of you have been on our old platform for a decade at this point. I think you'll really appreciate a lot of the changes that we've made in this platform. So to start out, before I really dive into the system, I want to go through just a couple quick nuances of this platform. The first is, if I shrink my screen down a little bit here, this is exactly how the platform will look on a cell phone or a mobile device. The reason I show that is this system is 100% mobile compatible. So yes, for you admins who are working on stuff on the go or need to make changes on the fly, very beneficial to be able to do it on your cell phone without having to pinch and scroll around. But this will also be a great benefit for your membership. Nothing is more difficult than going through an online registration form on your cell phone and getting that message that says you must check this box to continue and you can't find the checkbox. I know on our old platform at times the checkboxes were small, way off to the side, sometimes made it a little bit difficult for membership to get through it. We've now really tried to clean that up so it's a very clean and streamlined process. Another huge benefit of this system is everything is done through a solo login. You know, in our old system, we had organization login, coach login, player, manager, 10 different logins. For those that are really tied to the game, as many of you are and many of your coaches and managers are, within the course of one season, you end up with 5 different logins, couple logins for your kids, for your team, for your coach account to do your background check. It got very messy very quickly. We've had an opportunity to really clean that up. So this dashboard I'm sitting on right now is what it looks like as a club administrator. If I click my logo in the top right-hand corner of the screen here, you'll see my different roles pop up. And with each of these roles, if I'm a club admin, I can click in and out of these different accounts based off whatever access I need. So for those of you that might work with multiple clubs or might have a hand in the state office doing some stuff, you're able to easily pop in and out of your organization roles through this right-hand drop-down. Now, for those of you that are coaches and managers, I can click on my email address on the left-hand side and click Profile. This screen is not only what it looks like for coaches and managers, but also for your membership. I want to take a second to focus on what it looks like at the coach and manager level, just to highlight a few improvements that we've made that can really help just make sure that requirements are completed for all of your membership. So if I scroll down a little bit on this initial dashboard, when coaches and managers log in, they will not only see their role listed as a coach or manager and the competitive level of any teams that they're tied to, they will also see requirements on the right-hand side, the background check, safe sport, the CDC heads up course. You know, pretty straightforward here. Coaches will be able to come in here, click more info, start that course, whether it is the safe sport, the CDC, or the background check. By the time FYSA moves over to this new platform, yes, we will sync up and verify information that has been approved in the past. If I'm not mistaken, and Joel, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, background checks are good for 2 years. Safe sport, once you've completed it once, you get to do the refresher courses. All of that stuff will follow suit.
1 year on the background check. But other than that, you were correct.
It was close. I like to take a shot in the dark with some state stuff.
It's a pretty good average if we're playing baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I really want to touch on though while I'm in here is this is where some of these improvements come into play. If I click on team management, if I am a coach or manager and I am tied to multiple teams, I now do not have a different login for every single team and need to either have a universal account or a photographic memory to figure out what my username and password is for each team. As a coach, I'm now able to come in, I can click on each of my teams, I can go to the rosters, set event rosters, access player passes and official documents when needed. And this is a very streamlined process for coaches and managers to access everything they need through their account. I can also click on this account tab and I can do things like go into my family. I can see all of my kids. I can see if my wife or if my significant other has an account. I can access everything through my central login. So this should be a huge improvement, not only for your coaches and managers, but for membership as well. If I'm a parent, to be able to come in and manage my 3 kids, to be able to go into program registrations, see registrations I've completed, and actually see registrations that I've started but not finished. And I can come back in here and continue those registrations. And I will touch on what some of that looks like on the club side as we go through a little bit more here. So now that I've gone through what it looks like on the coach and manager side a little bit, I'm going to pop back into my organization account. And with screen sharing, sometimes my computer's a little slow here, so bear with me. Working from home is always a different experience from being in an office setting. But now that I'm back in as a club, before I dive into program registrations, the last thing that I really want to show here is this entire dashboard is customizable. So you can see in my test organization account, I have a lot of the basics in here listed: teams, coaches, players, billing, public calendars, programs, support. You are able to dictate exactly what is on this screen based off of your needs. Now, as of today, this is not customizable by user. It is customizable as an entire organization. However, by the time FYSA moves over to this new system, we fully expect this dashboard to be customizable based off of users a year down the line from now. So something to keep in mind a little bit, being able to have quick links into everything that you need to do. I know registrars spend a lot of time under that club tab in the old system and the registrar tab. So setting up some quick links into completing a lot of those same tasks would be vital and make your lives a lot easier. So to dive into programs now, if I go ahead and click on programs and click on program list, similar to the old system, you can set up as many or as few registrations as you'd like here. A lot of you are going to see some familiar aspects from the old system, and I'm going to really try to highlight and focus on some of the new tools that we've added into our program registration, since I know many of you have been using our registration platform for an extended period of time. So if I click into this dummy registration here, this initial screen of your program setup is going to cover a lot of the basics. It's really setting up the skeleton of your program. As I go through this screen though, you're going to see where you're going to collect a ton of information just from this first screen. So we'll put in a lot of general housekeeping. You'll give each registration a name. You'll tie it to a seasonal year, some start and end dates, set your age group method. A lot of this should look very familiar to a lot of you. A brief description that you can make available for your membership so they know exactly what they're registering for. Now, something new that we've added in is this welcome message. What this welcome message is a pop-up. As soon as someone clicks on your registration, just a great way to get out some information. So, first time in this new platform, a lot of you are probably going to start this off with your welcome message saying something along the lines of, hello, you do not have an account. You're going to create yourself a brand new account, and this will be the account you use moving forward. You'll kind of ease them into that transition. However, after that initial registration, what this welcome message turns into is it turns into a way to do some marketing for your club. A lot of you have local partnerships and sponsorships in your area. This is a great opportunity to hyperlink over to their website, to add their logos in here, and to really give them a nice shout out at the beginning of each registration. Also, for those of you that do fundraisers or have other programs, camps, clinics that you'd like to promote, you're able to use this the exact same way. So I really would recommend getting some good information in that welcome message when the time comes to set up your registration. Continuing through a little bit, notification emails, program by program, you can obviously dictate who needs to be involved in those communications. You're also able to set the reply to email address that's tied to your confirmation email. Really key, you get parents who register and go, okay, now what? And they kind of spaz a little bit. You want to make sure that you have that email going to somebody who can give some quick responses. But a lot of times as we walk through, you'll try to give out as much information as possible to try to prevent them from asking a question as soon as they register. As we scroll down a little bit here, a couple different check boxes. I'm going to kind of lightning round style go through these. Requiring a handwritten signature, similar to our old platform, you're able to plug in agreement text. We really cleaned it up in this new system, as you'll see momentarily. But this will collect signatures. If people are filling out their registration on a computer, it will ask them to sign with their mouse. If they're filling out the registration on a cell phone or a mobile device, it will ask them to sign with their finger. I know people always love to sign with their finger, makes them feel fancy, so that's a nice feature that could be there. You'll also see below that we made it very easy to collect parent information. The big thing here is we've set minimums and maximums just to ensure you're collecting as much contact information as you would like. Same idea with emergency contact information, a couple quick check boxes, and you're able to collect all of that information that you need. A couple check boxes here for things like asking players to select their age group and select their team. Workflow wise, over the years, we've seen that many clubs like to do a tryout, put players on teams, and then blast out a acceptance letter, so to speak. Some clubs put the players on the teams, others have them go through and select their team during that process. We've really opened up this system to make sure it works for whatever your preferred method to your madness is. So definitely, when it does come time to set up your programs for next fall, do not hesitate to reach out to myself or one of my colleagues, and we're happy to walk you through different options when it comes to how you're able to set up those registrations. As we continue down a little bit, You'll see photos required for. We've made it very easy to collect photos through your registration. This is actually an improvement we made in the old registration platform that many of you have taken advantage of for the past maybe year or so. Making sure it's very easy for your membership to get photos on file is key. You know, obviously getting those headshot photos is big so they can get the player passes and refs can identify them on the field. Continuing down a little bit, in the past, GotSoccer has always had an agreement terms section. We've now broken that up into payment terms versus the actual agreement text. So up here at the top where you see payment terms, this will be things like your refund policy. For those of you for this fall that have things like COVID information tied to COVID, if the season cancels, you can plug in a lot of that information. As I scroll down, and I'll make this box a little bit bigger, you can see the actual agreement text. This is where medical release forms, liability forms, really anything player and parent code of conduct, anything that you're looking to collect a signature for, you can plug in here. And the biggest improvement, in my opinion, and for those of you that have been using our system for a long time, you figured out how to do this, but I have seen some clubs whose registrations look a little funny because apparently they haven't figured out how to get the spacing correct. We've really made editing this text to look nice and professional a lot easier. So you can see I can easily click on some text. I can change the font, the format, the style. I can really manipulate this to look nice and professional, you know, the way that you want to come off in your communities. So definitely this will be a huge improvement on the ability to alter that text and make sure it looks professional in your registration. And then as I scroll down, the last box on this screen that I want to touch on is that confirmation email. The biggest difference from this platform to our legacy or our old platform is that this system is now a shopping cart style checkout. If I am a parent of 3, I can register all 3 of my kids in one shot. So not only will the confirmation email summarize the registration, and it will show as an itemized copy. So if they have multiple kids and they pick payment plans and they get the sibling discount and there is a late fee and any other features you might add to your program, it will lay all of that out in the confirmation email. But you are able to customize the text that goes along with that. So as you can see, same type of tools, easy to manipulate, and just make sure that that confirmation email looks nice and professional. So really from this first screen, you can see a lot of general housekeeping, but if I scroll back up, you'll have collected a ton of information from just going through this initial screen. To recap, all of the information about the player, their full name, gender, birthday, address, email, phone number, signatures to any of your agreement text, parent information, emergency contact information, as well as photos. So a ton has been collected just from this first screen. For additional information you're looking to collect and to kind of get more in the nitty-gritty of your registration, the next tab over registration forms is where we can ask custom questions. So if I click new form element here, you'll see a lot of the ways you're able to ask questions will look a little bit familiar, but we have added a few new ones. So text input, as many of you are familiar with, asking for a written response. Drop-down list and radio buttons asking for multiple choice questions. Checkbox, hey, check this box if you're a returning player. Very straightforward there. The 2 big ones that we've added in though are checkboxes, plural. This is where you can do something like, and if I scroll down, I believe I have an example here. I could do something like, what role would you like to volunteer with the club? And I can list out a bunch of different options. With checkboxes, plural, this allows your membership to check off more than one option. They can check off all of the following that might be applicable to them. So that is a huge feature. I know that is something that's been asked for multiple years now. We made sure to get that available. The other option that's new that we've added in is file field. This is where you can literally ask for documents right at the time of registration. So most commonly, and I can almost guarantee it's getting chatted to Joel right now, is birth certificates. Yes, you can accept birth certificates through the registration now. So if I do something like upload your birth certificate, you can see as I type, the preview on the right-hand side updates just to give you a good feel for exactly what you're creating. And with each custom question that you ask, we have 3 checkboxes here at the bottom. Required, meaning they must answer that question or upload that document to continue through the registration. editable, meaning they can change their response at a later date. And we've now added in office use only. These are questions that do not show during the registration, but are available on the back end for US club administrators to go through and fill out. A lot of times, scholarship related questions are a little touchy-feely and you don't always want them in the registration. You can now have them available on the back end. Once someone registers, you're able to go in and fill out that information. A huge benefit here in terms of general housekeeping is this entire screen is drag and drop. So if I forget to ask a question or at any point I want to reorder my questions, I can drag and drop and move some of these different options around. You don't have to put a number value to order them. This should be very easy to maneuver outside of just selecting the page of the registration it's available on. As always, we still have the ability to copy your program from one season to the next or one registration to the next. But another new feature that we've added in is this quick add, which you'll see on a few screens. What this does is it looks across other registrations that you've used in the past and sees questions that you most commonly ask. So a lot of times, fall season to spring season or fall to fall, you'll just copy your program over and make some tweaks. But from a fall registration to a camp or a clinic, a lot of times it's not worth copying it over. You might start it from scratch. You can now use this quick add to get a lot of the same information and make sure you're collecting it if interested during that registration process. So Joel, before I continue on, any questions, feel free to chat them in regards to collecting information before we dive into fees and a little bit further into the program. I feel like this might be a good opportunity to fire some questions away when it comes to collecting information.
Nothing new in there yet, Scott, but we'll give it just a second. Yeah, I'd say move on. I bet you there's some people who are waiting to raise their hand and speak to you verbally at the end.
Oh yeah. So next tab over is fees. As many of you are familiar with, GotSoccer does a little bit of the heavy lifting when it comes to payment plans. So before I dive into what's on the screen, just to reiterate for those of you that are not familiar, if you have players sign up on payment plans that go across a couple of months, when auto payments are due 3 days prior, let's say you take payments on the 1st, 3 days prior, the system will send out a reminder email to mom and dad. Hey, your payment's coming up. Click the link below to log in if you need to update your payment information. On the 1st, if that transaction declines, not only does the system send mom and dad an email letting them know their payment declined, it also attempts to run that transaction again for you at midnight the following evening. The system will go through that chain of declined transactions, send the email, attempt to run it again for 7 straight days before it is on you to go in and really, manage collecting that money. And I will try to touch on, if we have time, a little bit on some billing reports. When it comes to fees though, as you can see, I have a pay in full 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month option. You can have as many different options as you'd like available, similar to our old system, but we have made a few improvements here. When it comes to setting up fees, you're able to give it a name, a brief description. You're able to dictate either gender and age group. So I might do both genders and maybe my, U14 to U16 pay this specific fee. Or I can now get team specific. I might say, hey, for this Predators team, they go to 2 extra tournaments than some of the other, U16 teams in my club. They need to pay a little bit of extra money. You now can have fees available for specific teams. And if players are assigned to those teams, they will only see the fees that are available for their team. A lot of you, if you recall from the first screen, you might have players select their team based off of that checkbox on the first screen, and that way they will only see the fees applicable to them. But if they are already on that team, they will only see the fees tied to that, obviously. As I continue down, initial fee is what is due at the time of registration. And as I continue to the bottom, you're able to set up as many different monthly or future payments as you would like. A huge improvement from the old system is we've now added in some late registration settings. So if you have players register 2 months late and they've missed a few previous payments and they want to sign up for a payment plan, you can dictate how the system is going to handle the situation. You can have it back charge them for the months that they've missed. You can have it push out those dates and keep that 1 month or bi-monthly, bi-weekly spacing, or you can deactivate the option altogether. If they register after that first month, you can have it deactivate where they need to select something of less payments or a full payment option. You can also still set up wait lists in the total available section. So for those of you that start a wait list as of a certain date, or for those of you that go in and cap, registrations, you're able to set up those wait lists through here as well. Now, tied to fees, we have our features tab. We've really made some good improvements here under the features tab. This is where you'll set up things like early bird discounts, late fees, sibling or family discounts, forwarding on processing fees, asking for donations, things of that nature. A couple quick things I want to touch on this features tab that I know have been asked for an extended period of time. The first is for sibling discounts or family discounts. In the old system, players had to be in a family account to receive those discounts. Because this new system is a shopping cart style checkout and everything is done through a solo login, the system will automatically pick up on families with multiple kids as long as they're tied to the same email, and those discounts will come into play. Big change here would be voucher codes or discount codes are now managed under the features tab. And you are able to have features span across multiple programs. So if I click new feature here, I'm not actually going to go through and set up a feature. I just want to scroll to the bottom to show this global option. What this global option will do is it will add that feature to every single program registration you have available. So if you ask for donations for scholarship players in every program, or if you do, if you have voucher codes you want to make available across multiple programs, you're able to check off that global box, and that will make that feature automatically appear in every single program that you have available. A key thing that I want to show tied to features is we have taken some big steps in improving our features, reports, and reporting that's available. I am going to save some billing reports towards the end if we have some time. But the one thing I do want to touch on our features report is we've made this really clean and easy for you as an administrator to come in here and see the value that your features bring to your club. So just to quickly walk through this, I don't want to spend too much time here, but I can see each of my different payment options on the left, and towards the right, color coordinated shows all of my features that are available. Not only will the system show me a quantity, how many people used, voucher code or sibling discount, early bird discount, late fees, but it will also give you a money value tied to that. This gives you an opportunity as a club to gauge what works and what doesn't work. How much money did we give away from sibling discounts? How much money did we bring in from late fees? How much money did we bring in from donations? How much money was made off of jersey sales or t-shirt sales? Whatever features you might have available, you can now get an exact money value that gets brought in through that. Very easy to see through these reports. And then the last tab in terms of setting up a registration that I'm going to touch on is the appearance tab. Not going to waste too much time here because my design eye is not known to be the best. What I will say is if I scroll down to the bottom of the screen here, I'm able to upload my logo. And once I upload my logo, I can click on this eyedropper tool for each different section. This will allow me to get the exact red, green, blue, yellow, whatever color I'd like off of my registration. And as I make changes, you can see the preview on the right-hand side updates with me. I can either use the eyedropper or I can go to the old color wheel. I could pick some crazy colors just to show. If I press choose, you can see it updates as I go through. You do not need to play with your appearance, press save, open up your registration to see what it looks like. Using this preview will give you a good feel without having to leave the screen. So in terms of setting up a registration, that's a pretty quick run through here. Joel, I think I'll give another moment or two if anybody wants to ask any questions in regards to fees, features, or really anything in regards to setting up a program, feel free to chat it in now before we dive into managing those registrations and going through some general club management.
Yep, I've got one here from Cheryl. It says, I have a question on features. Does global mean that it's available in the quick adds, but not necessarily automatically added to all programs? I have some that I would want available, but not for all programs. It seems to me that it just adds to that quick adds list.
So we've been kind of toying back and forth with that idea, Cheryl, and if I'm not mistaken, I think at some point you've actually gotten into this new system a little bit and played around with it. Right now, it puts it directly into the quick add, where you can see I have different options that are checked off as global here, but long term, they will automatically put them into those registrations, but there will be a checkbox available when setting up that feature or when setting up that program to remove some of those that you don't want. So a lot of times if you do things like for features, maybe late fees, because you have a handful of different registrations going on at a time, you don't need that in a camp or clinic that's 2 months away. Yes, you will be able to opt them in and out of different registrations.
Perfect. And yeah, and Tom had the same question. So thank you, Scott.
Perfect. All right. So once players go through and click on your registration link and start to register, they will actually begin to show up under your program registrations tab. Obviously, we've got a ton of filters here. We've got a lot of good information on the screen. I'm not going to focus too much on every single thing on the screen here. One thing I really do want to focus on, though, is this column that says complete, submitted, and waitlisted. And I actually just want to filter by that program we just walked through. This column that says complete, submitted, and waitlisted, what this does is it now allows you to track who of your membership has actually started a registration but not completed it. This is something that has been asked for years, and we've always had a little bit of an issue with. In this new system, I think we've really got it right. So what complete means is they've gone through and answered all of your questions. Submitted means they actually put that credit card on file and press submit. And waitlist, obviously, if they were put on a waitlist, if you have that available. The biggest benefit here is I can hover over these red X's and I can see the exact page of the registration that someone may have stopped on. Couple benefits here. If I see something like this where someone stopped on the select payment plan screen, as a club administrator, that gives you an opportunity to reach out. Maybe they can't afford to make payments. Maybe they're comparing your fees to the club down the street. Gives you a good opportunity to reach out to them and feel out what's going on. Another benefit, though, is when you have those parents that come to the office and go, hey, I couldn't figure out registration. Can you just do it for me? And I know many of you manually register more players than you'd like to every single season because you have parents who are lazy or don't want to try to go through the online registration. They're not comfortable with it. This now gives you an opportunity to see, A, did they start the registration at all? Did they even click on the link? B, where did they stop in the registration? If someone stopped on the parents screen, a lot of times that tells you they just didn't feel like filling it out, versus a screen like a payment plan or a checkout screen where maybe they were holding off because money became an issue. So definitely something that I really like to take the time and focus on there. If I go ahead and click into a registration, a couple quick tabs to touch on. The first is this info screen. This is a lot of basic information about the registration, the player, some generic information about themselves. It has a timestamp of their registration. Couple quick things I want to touch on here. The first is I can click this edit button, and for players who select the wrong payment plan option, you can now easily come in here and swap those around. I know that sometimes that has been a bit tedious in the past, so we've tried to make that a little bit easier for you. Another tool that we've added in, or we've really just made a huge enhancement to, are flagging tools. So in the old system, under club and players, you always had a dozen or so flags that were available. Occasionally, people reach out to me and go, hey, I see a red flag next to one of my players. What does red flag mean? And I don't know. The flags in the old system were all based off of whoever said it, put their own connotation to it, and no one else knew unless they were told. So in this new system, we still have flagging tools available where you can create as many different flags as you'd like. I've got a couple relevant flags created here, things like coaches' children, friend requests on the recreational side, parents who are constantly late on payments, things of that nature. You're able to come in here though and create any flag that you would like. These flags show up across the entire system, and people are able to see what they actually mean. And as I walk through some of the other screens, I'll hover over them so you can see when it pops up and shows, black flag means the player has an allergy. The biggest benefit to these flags is that they create custom reports and custom filters for you throughout the system. So at any point, I can come in and I can filter by all my green flags, everyone who had a coach request, whether that's through team building or whether I'm just running some quick reports through the platform. These flags will be a great benefit to many of you as you go through managing your club. And you can see if I go back here, I can hover over each of those flags and it tells me exactly what it means. So it's no longer a guessing game. Going back into this player, the next tab over, registration, covers all of their answers to custom questions. Also will show your agreement text with a signature tied at the bottom. That timestamp is on the first screen, so you can always reference back to this in case families break code of conducts or things of that nature. And then the billing tab, we've just really put a focus on making it a lot easier for you to go in and alter invoices. I can come in here, I can click edit on an invoice, I can come down, I can make some changes, whether it be to the amount, to the due date, things of that nature. A lot of times, many of you work with your membership. Mom reaches out, hey, I don't get paid till Friday. Can you push my payment back a few days? A lot of you work with your membership. You're now very easily able to go in and make some of those changes as needed. The biggest improvement or benefit that I would say that many of you have asked for over the years through this screen that I want to touch on is total balance and due now. You'll see next to each of these, there is a pay now button as an administrator. I can come in here and hit their card for their next upcoming payment or for the total amount that they owe. But these buttons are now also available to your parents. So instead of parents having to reach out to you and say, hey, please process my credit card, they can now log in themselves and click pay now. We do have help links available for a lot of this. So a lot of times you might click on this little help button or click on the support tab, which will now be available in your left tab bar. And you might search our help documentation, grab a link that walks your membership through how they can go in and send you a payment. And you might send that to them directly so you don't have to hold their hand and walk them through step by step. So that's kind of a quick run through in terms of managing registrations. Before I open up the floor for some questions and things, I do want to dive into club management and touch on a few quick aspects of team building, managing your database, and submitting to the state. So I'm not going to pause to take questions just based off of time. I do want to leave some time for Q&A at the end. But there are a few things that I want to quickly show through here. So the first is, if I go under club management and players, in the old system, we hit you with what I like to consider everything but the kitchen sink. We gave you every filter you could imagine, and it took up a lot of valuable real estate on the screen. We've made changes to that with what I consider to be a la carte filters, as you can see at the top of the screen here. This allows you to really sift through your database a lot better, in my opinion, than what you've been able to do in the past. So to just give an example of the power of this system, I might do something like player program. I want all my players registered in this fall program we just went through. I could then go in, click add another filter. I might do gender. I want all my male players. I could then add another filter. A lot of times that next filter is usually a birth year or a date of birth filter. I'm going to get program specific though. One of the questions in my program was, what role would you like to volunteer with the club? I want everyone who answered. I'm going to check off a few of these just because this is a dummy account and I want some players to show up here. But if I press search, this will show me, and of course I got a little too deep in there. I'll just go ahead and take one filter off. This will show me all of the players that fit that criteria. I can very easily, as you've been accustomed to, come in here, check off a handful of players and press send message. I can email from here. I can click into players, access their account. I can access their documents like their birth certificate or any other documents you may ask them to upload. And this will be a relatively easy process for you guys to sift through your data. Now, when it comes to managing your club, many of you run into this issue of from the end of the fall season to the start of the spring, there is a very small window for you to manipulate your rosters and get them submitted for the next season. You're afraid to make changes to your fall roster, but teams are going to tournaments and you need to make changes. And a lot of times it's been a little bit clunky to make changes to rosters in the past. We've really put a huge focus on that in the new system, where now you're able to come in, you'll have all of your teams listed and you'll be able to come in and create your teams and all that good stuff, relatively easy. But if I click this drop down at the top of the screen and click on Roster Builder, we've really enhanced our old team builder and made this roster builder really useful for you guys as administrators. So I can come in here, every single event that I have teams register for will show in this drop down. You can also come in here and add your own event. So if you have teams that are playing in leagues or tournaments that are not a part of our system, or if you just want to create, a generic roster that you can fall back on outside of an event-specific roster, you're able to come in here. I'm going to filter by a specific event here. But what you'll see is we give you those same a la carte filters across the top of the screen. So you can filter through and see the exact information you want, filtering by your program, gender, age group, so on and so forth. On the left-hand side of the screen will be your membership. On the right-hand side of the screen will be each of your teams. Relatively straightforward. 2 ways you can add players or coaches and managers to rosters. You can either drag and drop them one at a time. And if you go one at a time, you can put in information like their position, their jersey number, and status. Status being primary, secondary, guest, and club pass. Or I can check off a handful of players and I can click add to team and I can add players to teams in bulk. And then if I ever need to go in and update the jersey number, status, or position, I can click in those sections and I can make changes as needed. So a lot of versatility here when it comes to roster building. The biggest benefit, like I mentioned before, is teams can have simultaneous rosters running. So if this is my state official roster, but I have a team going to a tournament in 2 weeks and I need to build out that tournament roster, I can filter by a different event and now I can add the players as needed. If I scroll down here, you will see that we have a clone tool. So if I wanted to say, yeah, I want to use my state official roster, I want to clone that and then make some changes to it. You can clone a roster, copy over all of the players, and then once you've copied it, make some changes, click that X to remove any players needed, drag and drop any players that were not currently listed on that roster. And just to show you how that cloning tool works, just because I saw it tied for this event, I can select an event, I click submit, and you'll now see all of the players, coaches, and managers tied to that team were pulled over here. I can also sift through my coaches and managers here when it comes to team building, and it is the same process of dragging and dropping to add them to rosters. So a lot of you, that have complained about having a hard time with different rosters and it's difficult to have simultaneous rosters running for teams at a time, we've really tried to clean that up for you. The last thing I want to touch on, and yes, Joel, I am aware of the time, is communications. There's really one main thing I want to show under communications, and that is the contact lists. What these are pre-filtered lists that you as administrators are able to have queued up on file, ready to go when it comes to messaging. So a couple good examples I have listed here. I have things like Monday night practice, competitive coaches, recreational coaches, things of that nature. If I come in here to quickly create a test, I can come in here, I can give it a name, then I'm able to build out who is actually on my list. So I might come in here as an example, I might do programs. I want everyone who's registered for these 3 programs to be added to this list. Once I press add block, not only can you see the number of recipients on the right-hand side here, I can click view recipients and see specifically for each player, what emails is this going to? So looking at my own test account here, I've got the primary email tied to my player, I've got mom's email, I've got dad's email, and I've got grandma's email because she occasionally does pick up, but she's unsubscribed from messages. Families are able to unsubscribe from club messages for anything outside of billing. Just so you guys are aware, I know many of you have reached out in the past saying, hey, can you unsubscribe these players' emails from my club? And a lot of times our support center tells you just remove the email from your database. We really want to get away from that habit, because then you lose that information for future reference. So now you're able to come back in and see who has unsubscribed, as well as any emails tied to those lists. I'm going to go through, I'm also going to maybe say, just to continue with building out this contact list, teams. I might go through, using my example before, Monday night practice. Maybe these handful of teams, these 5 teams practice Monday night. I want all of their players, coaches, and managers to be included in email communications. I can press add block. You still see the recipients list updates. I can click view. I can see all those recipients. The biggest benefit of these contact lists are: new kid registers for one of my programs or gets added to one of my teams. New coach or manager gets added to one of my teams. They automatically get included in this contact list. I do not need to refilter. That 39 will automatically change to 40, and those numbers will continue to grow as players register. So for many of you, you'll click on contact list, and when I'm under my contact list, a lot of times, shrinking my screen down here, cell phone style, you guys know how this works. You're on your phone, practice gets canceled last minute. You can come in here, click compose message, that will pop up an email. We have made our email, some improvements to our emailing tools, and plan on continuing to make a few changes here. But not only can I easily now add in things like header logos, footer logos, or signatures. Every admin is able to put their own signature, as many signatures as they like on file that can be queued up. But we've made it very easy to manipulate text, as I showed before, changing font, format, style. The spacing is a lot better through this. We've also made it very easy to do hyperlinks, and we will be adding the ability to attach PDFs or images within the next few weeks here. So that will 100% be available for all of you by the time you get into this new system.
Wow, Scott, I think I've been asking for that one for 10 years now. That's fantastic. Attaching PDFs is going to be a giant step.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, that's really it for my presentation. I know I left about 7 or 8 minutes here for a little Q&A. So if you want to open up the floor, free, and I'm happy to answer any questions that get fired my way.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. First and foremost, I promised Tom that I would unmute him first, and then I will get to 2 questions in the chat. Tom, I'm unmuting you right now. Can you hear us, Tom?
How are you? It looks good. It looks very good. I'm happy to see that multi-select is available in some areas. And I know Cheryl asked this question, but I just want to clarify it because I asked this of David Chalstrom. I don't know if he's still with you guys, and Dave back on September 15, 2017, in an email with a screenshot. We really need multi-select on almost all of the fields. So for example, when you talk about features, we have something called non-volunteer fee. I need to be able to say, apply non-volunteer fee to the registration 1, 2, and 3, not just 1, and not just any registration, which I guess is what you call global now. So we need a way to apply some features to multiple select. And I saw that you have multiple select in other places. We just need that field made available as multiple select. The same thing on the registration fees. A particular fee should be able to be applied to anybody who is on a white team, whether it's boys U7 white, boys U8 white, boys U9 white, rather than having to create currently multiple registration fees with the exact same information, because you have to be able to apply it either to, right now, to all teams or only one team. We really need multiple select there. So I hope my question is clear on that. Is it?
Definitely, Tom. Those are things that we've been discussing internally. We really wanted to streamline that process, as you kind of touched on. Players have registered. We don't want them to register again, but now the team's going to a tournament. We want to be able to add a fee to everybody. And those are things that we're really working towards. We're still fine-tuning a few things on the back end of the system, but should 100% be available for you. And if you want to forward me that email from 2017, I'm happy to make sure I bring that up to Dave Buchanan, who's now the head of our State Department. David Charlstrom still with us. The one thing I do have to say to you, Tom, is for a guy with the self-proclaimed best website in GotSoccer history, you really let me down a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, I should say, when I went to show a club your website and you changed up the website on me, man. So you really killed me a few weeks ago.
You do know that I did not let you down. You gave up on website hosting, and you know what? I get it. There's no money there. I really ran out of the heat I take from my board from having what's no longer the best looking website, still the best looking GotSoccer website was, is just the features weren't there. And you know that I love you guys, but it just wasn't possible.
Hey, Tom, the new website looks great, man. Just want to let you know.
Well, it's very slow, by the way, but that's another story. It's not your fault. Listen, I know I'm not going to let you go that easy. SMS text messaging and API.
Text messaging, we plan on releasing a new version of our team app within the next 6 months or so, probably sometime mid-spring season. So for next fall, should definitely be available. That will have the push notifications, messaging options, RSVPing for practices, putting practice schedules on there, all the bells and whistles that many of you look for your coaches and managers to do communications. When we release that team app, we believe at the moment we will also be releasing the text messaging in the system. Not 100% positive on it, but our main goal is to make it where you don't have to put in a cell phone number and a service provider. The old @vznmedia.net is so outdated. So we really want to make sure if we do add text messaging into this platform, it's done and it's nice and professional. So definitely tools that we're working towards for the future.
And API?
The API, is kind of its own beast. The way that this new system was coded was a lot more open source, meaning we now have the option to get some of those APIs available. Can't really make a statement as of today exactly what will be made available in the future. But if I do scroll down here, things like club calendars are now available that can be made available to the public or specifically for your organization. So we have taken strides at a lot of things that we've been asked about APIs for in terms of making that easily available for the public and for you as an administrator. But definitely a road that we will be venturing down, as things slow down for the fall season.
If you had text messaging, I wouldn't need to use TeamSnap. So I wouldn't need API, you know what I mean? So if we could just parents don't read emails, and so if we can notify them by sending text messages, and there are companies out there, I know it costs money and that's why you can't really provide it easily, but even if we had to pay for it, right now, the whole import exports, it's a pain, There's companies out there that will send a text message to a number, and if the number happens to be a landline, they'll just deposit them a voicemail on their system. So there's ways to make this work, and we could all go away from TeamSnap and other, whatever we use,
Definitely, it's high on our priority list, and hopefully by the fall season when FYSA moves over, it should be available for all of you.
Yeah, I was just going to interject with that same thing, Scott. It's important to remember that we're still a year away from using this system. There's going to be changes. That was a strategic decision by FYSA to not jump on board this fall season because there was discussions. Tom, if you don't mind, I'm going to get to a couple more of these chats here. From Donna says, I have a question about birth certificates. Do we have to upload birth certificates into the system, or can we keep a copy of ourselves? Alice, that might be answered best by you.
A birth certificate must be uploaded into the system to be able to be verified. Now, if you keep a copy, birth certificate should be uploaded because it should have to be verified.
And if I remember from the previous demonstration that William did, the verified check mark, essentially the verified status, will be copied over from the legacy system to the new system.
Correct. So we will run a script on that. Any players that have been verified in the past will show as verified. For new players, you are able to come in here, and I'll actually click on a player that was already verified just to show what it looks like. Under documents, once you click verify, you click into their birth certificate, look at it, and you verified it. It actually shows the name of the administrator who verified them, the club, or if it was the state association, whatever the organization tied to that verification was, and a timestamp that is available. So a lot of information will be made available about verifications, but yes, any players that have been verified in the past, we will run a script and re-verify them in the new platform.
Okay, let's see here. From Ingrid, will we be able to see past events? Now, if an event has passed, we can no longer see which teams participated in the past event.
Great question, Ingrid. Yes. So under club management and teams, at any point, I can click on a specific team and go to team registrations and see events that they've been in and the rosters that were active for that event. We've even taken it a step further now under club management, and there's a tab that says team registrations. I can click into that, and obviously we give you a bunch of filters at the top, so you could always filter by a specific event, even if it's past or not. But you can then scroll down and see each of your teams that were in those events, the name to the events, timestamps of when they registered and were approved. And we try to give you a lot of information so you can always reference back and track a lot of that information.
Let's see here from Cheryl again. I believe we cannot search by parent information, correct? Parent email or name. This would be helpful when they contact you and don't give the name of the child.
Cheryl, great question. Recently, we had made a change and it was made available. Right now, it is not. But yes, it will be made available for you as a filter that shows in what I consider to be your a la carte filters for the future. If I go back into program registrations, actually, you will see name or email. I believe, and we can test this right now on the fly. If I go GotSoccer, which is my parent's name, it does not show for the player I've registered. However, that will be available. If I scroll down here, though, you can see each player's name and the parent that they were enrolled by. So we are collecting that information, and that will be made available in the future. It was temporarily available. We have recently been playing with some of those filters and settings tied to those filters the past few weeks, though.
Great. Just a couple more here. I think this goes back to Donna's previous question about birth certificates. Can the parent then delete the birth certificate once they've been verified out of the system that keep them verified? I think it's kind of a question of security.
Right. One of the techniques one of the procedures that we have for FYSA, if that we could write a letter, if the VP and the club registrar verifies it, write a letter that they verified, that information is what uploaded. So in those parents who have those situations, we do have a process that we can overcome that when not keeping the document.
Okay, and I think it's only fitting. Tom, you got the last question up, and then we'll have to prepare for the next one. Tom asked, can you search for players without the photo? I don't follow on that one, Tom. I might need to unmute you again here.
I follow you,
Basically,
Tom.
right now, the only way to see if somebody doesn't have a photo is to put a check mark on the photo and then kind of scroll down the list and manually select the 10 players and then email them and say, hey, I need your photo. Where you can do it, for example, people without birth certificate or people without whatever, So is there a way to search for players who are missing a photo on file?
So I'm under club management and players right now. I've got player photo in the drop down at the top. I can say is or is not uploaded, and I can press search, and it will only show me those players that fit that criteria. So yes, that's something that we've made available.
Great. For the version 3.0, you should say the one with a picture of the kid jumping in a pool that's not valid for the parents.
Yeah, nothing like a good Halloween photo as a headshot.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I thank everybody for being on here. Scott, again, big thank you to you and GotSoccer for lending us your time. Very informative. Alice, thank you as always for being a part of this. Thank you for everyone who contributed and listened. 7:30, just in a bit here, we've got the FSPL and Sunshine Conference webinar that's going on. We'll talk to you guys then or next week. So have a good evening, everybody.
Joel, thanks again for the opportunity. Appreciate everyone for joining this evening. Yep. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you'd like to start to map out what that transition looks like maybe later on in the spring season.
All right, I am